Gant, the MC, is in his class watching an amusement park promotional video. The park is also a prison called Dead Man Wonderland, a weird place the class was planning to visit. We say it in the past tense was planning since once the lesson started, you could see an expression of fear on the face of Gant as he looked through the window and saw a weird figure that we will call from now on the Red Man or Man in Red who was flying 3 floors up. But don't hold on to your pearls yet. In a blink, the man killed the entire class, put a red gemstone in Gant's chest, and disappeared as fast as he appeared. Next thing you know, Gant is accused of killing his entire class and is taken into custody. He then encounters a lawyer called Tamaki, who promises to prove his innocence and free him from his chains. Now, as we all know, a man with his eyes closed in any anime show is a man hiding something, and since this guy is a lawyer, I call shits on his promises. During the day of the trial, G is framed for the crime of killing all his classmates and sentenced to life imprisonment. Naturally, getting falsely accused and sentenced to life for being a psycho killer can make one break, especially if it was a middle school kid like our MC here. It made him lose his mind and throw a tantrum, which low-key made him look like the psycho killer they painted him as. After being tackled by a policeman, Gant's phone ever so conveniently falls out of his pocket with a recording of him admitting to Tamaki that he did it. He massacred the classroom and was boasting about it. Seeing the video, Tamaki approached our boy, claiming the cat was out of the bag. There is nothing we could do following this defeat. G got shipped off to Dead Man Wonderland, the prison side of it, not the amusement park. Although you could argue a prison can be considered a theme park until you drop the soap. While being processed with the rest of the inmates by the warden, Makina, the Busta lady shares some valuable info, but don't let this interaction fool you. This girl is cray. When a random boy hits our boy with his cart, the mommy orders the boy to return what he has stolen. He will be struck down with her sword. The twink, though, decided to play dumb, so he got the tip of the blade, much to everyone's shock. Even the guards were like, what the hell? So after this weird event, G is sent to do manual labor while reminiscing about the good old days when he was just an innocent child. Well, he is still technically innocent, and a child Gant wishes that he had died in that classroom. At that moment, an albino girl wearing a tight white bodysuit drops from above, and instead of a hello there, how you doing, she was like, do you want me to kill you? And then started swinging a metal pole at him, claiming she will make his wish come true. Gant, however, keeps dodging that pole like a cat. The crazy chick then asks if what she heard about him was true. You know the thing about killing his classmates yet? Before he could properly explain, 3 inmates appeared out of nowhere with a bone to pick with the poor kid. Luckily for him, the girl is a good fighter and stands up for his sorry ass until she takes a powerful shovel bonk to the back of her head. G tries to play the hero, but gets put down easily. Meanwhile, the lawyer prick is sitting comfortably in his office wondering if Gant, the boy who saw the red man and lived to tell the tale, will rise above his hardship or get crushed. Speaking about getting crushed, as the bastards were kicking our boy G like a dog a water tank. Above them exploded and fell straight toward them with a girl out cold. G had to dig deep to find a way out of this predicament, as he now is determined to live clear his name and avenge his friends. Consequently, a sharp sensation surged through his chest. The gem implanted in him shone brightly, and Gant's blood caused a blast that destroyed the falling tank. After the dust cleared, G found out that the other guys didn't make it, while Shiro, the albino girl, was just sleeping and was unharmed. Later, in the clinic, Ganta is treated by the resident bada doctor, who asks him if he did take his candy or not, to which the little lad answers, nope, didn't see any candy in my survival kit. The weasel named Yo apologizes for bumping into our boy, hinting that this may be why Ganta couldn't find his candy. The conversation then gets cut short when the little psycho enters the chat, demanding Gant to play with her. She then suggests that they enter the race as a team to win lots of prizes. Yo takes this opportunity to explain that in this prison nothing comes for free. To get food, drinks, candy, and even lessen their sentence time, they need to participate in deadly events for something called cash credits. As mentioned before, these credits are used to buy anything they need on the premises of Dead Man Wonderland, and nothing is off limits. Yo then urges Gant to participate in the upcoming dog race, since the winner will earn 1,000 points that he can exchange for a piece of candy. On his way to enter the race, Ganta gets stopped by the Double G, who asks him if he has read the instructions yet or not, to which he answers, yes ma'am, good, knowing how we run things around here is what keeps the wolves in sheep's clothing alive, the warden said. G then looked at her as she left, not to check her out, but to make sense of this interaction, as he obviously still hasn't read the manual or knows what the crap he was getting himself into. Meanwhile, Yo makes a call to the lawyer who screwed our boy over to tell him that his mission is a success and Gant will join the race. Now in a locker room, Ganta is approached by the snake Yo, who was about to hand him something right before the big dog around these corners entered the room. This bastard with a yee-ass haircut is called Kazuki, a renowned martial artist who was arrested because he couldn't riz a chick. And if you think a man can't catch more L's than that, think again. This balding douche proceeded to beat on kids who don't measure up to his thigh. Luckily, there was light at the end of this grim tunnel, as the albino girl Shiro walked over these losers literally and figuratively. Ganta couldn't bear to watch his new girlfriend get sucker punched, so he closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he found the baddest standing on business with time up. The prisoners were ordered to move on stage while Yo was sent back to the infirmary. Before the race started, Ganta read very important info from his manual. The collar around the inmates' necks injects a deadly poison into their bloodstream periodically, and the only way to counter it is the candy given to them. One piece of candy can last a total of 72 hours. To get those candy antidotes, this info makes our boy more determined to give the race a try. However, this race isn't your typical faster runner gets the dub. No sir, the track is lined up with deadly traps aimed to kill the participants in the most brutal ways. Meanwhile, the enormous crowds watch intently and cheer, oblivious to the fact that all this is real, believing it's just theater and acting. Through each course, somehow Shiro, with her bubbly attitude, appears and bumps G out of the way of danger. Even when going for the bungee jump, Shiro picks the wrong rope, giving G the right one, but no worries, Shiro is a powerful girl and she sticks the landing like a champ. Now fast forward to the final game. Only Kazuki, Shiro, and Gant are in play. The game is simple. They need to keep the ball in their possession until the rest are eliminated. How eliminated? Well, of course, by falling to their deaths and being pierced by the spikes beneath them. After a long battle, lots of RNG, and this badass moment, Kazuki leads himself to an early grave. On the other side, Shiro, the one holding the ball, falls off while she holds onto the edge of a block with her legs. Gant notices how beat up Shiro is and realizes that she has been saving him all along, tanking the damage for him. Before she gets sent to oblivion, Shiro throws the ball to Ganta, accepting her death to ensure that her boy will win the game. Ganta, however, being the good person he is, ignores the ball entirely and saves Shiro from dying, which ends the game in a tie. Consequently, no one receives any points. Back at his cell, Yo is glad that Gant is going to be his roommate and gives him candy as an apology for the candy he lost because of him. Naturally, Gant thanks him and tells him that he will be in his debt. Hearing this, Yo puts on a maniacal smile. It is revealed that the director has put Yo on watching duty since day one. I assume Yo took the candy only to return it later so he could build this fake trust relationship. Speaking about the devil, while playing in his private room, Tamaki gets a call that the Mother Goose system has shut down. Hearing this, Tamaki has a change of nature as failure in this system would mean death for everyone, as explained in his monologue. Meanwhile, Yo then treats G to some ice cream as a congratulations for surviving the game he was in. Although happy with the gesture, it still felt bittersweet for Gant, since the last time he had ice cream was when he had it with his now dead friends. Before even having a little bit of that delicious-looking ice cream, Ganta feels a pain in his chest as the gem shines through his clothes. Looking above him, he sees that same red man who killed his classmates soaring through the air. He then conjures a tornado, killing the people in the vicinity from its impact and sending everyone and everything flying. Blood spews out of Gant's chest, and in his rage, he fires a blood bullet at the man in red, hitting him right in the face. Sadly, though, it didn't faze that powerful beast or even leave a scratch, and he just disappeared. G then falls unconscious due to exhaustion. Waking up in the hospital, Ganta finds Shiro right at his side, trying to cheer him through conversation, but he is uninterested, to say the least. He had realized that the man responsible for all the crap he has been through so far was hiding inside Dead Man Wonderland as one of the inmates, and all he could think of is who could it be and how to find that bastard that took everything from him in the glimpse of an eye. G then overhears some men talking about a powerful and dangerous inmate held up at a secret sector called G Block, and as a result, G now believes that his man is there. This turn of events has left Lady Makina scrambling to bring back serenity after the storm, and her first order of business is to bring that damn middle school kid for interrogation. Therefore, she calls for Code Red and unleashes a goofy-looking Terminator to go and deal with him. On the other hand, Tamaki is having his own deal with his boy Yo. For Yo to keep getting social credit from Tamaki, he has to stick by Ganta's side, especially now that Gant has awakened as the quote-unquote real guest of Dead Man Wonderland. Back with the main man, we see him zooming through the corridors looking for G Block in the hope of finding the Red Man. On his way, he runs into Yo, who explains that G Block doesn't exist. It's just a myth, and he shows a map of the prison to prove it. That said, Shiro disagrees with Yo and tells him it has existed since she has been there. Suddenly, a security robot called Necro Macro spots the three of them and charges in to attack them without even a warning shot. After some sunder behavior, Shiro saves the day by leading the boy into the vents, something she often does and will do a lot throughout the series. That said, venting this time around wasn't enough to lose the crewmate, as it was now hot on their tail, so they had to outmaneuver, sabotage, and gaslight themselves into believing they were in the clear. Sadly, like any great gamer, they stopped to take a look at their work and bask in the glory of their success in finding the entrance of G-Block's sector. After another brief altercation near the entrance, Necro crept its way to the group while the fire raged behind him. It looked scary as hell, yet Shiro didn't care as she was in her feels after G yapped on how he was sorry for dragging them into his problems. Much to the boy's surprise, she was strong enough to kick it away, but sadly wasn't strong enough to destroy it for good as it stood back up to face the albino kid. Wanting to counterattack, G raised his hand into the air, trying to shoot a blood bullet at it, but nothing happened. At that moment, blood streams appear from behind the robot, and it gets sliced to shreds in the blink of an eye. Seeing a powerful man bloodbending in front of him, Gant mistakes the guy for the red man and charges at him with a metal pole. The man slices it up into tiny pieces using the blades on his hands. Seeing how outmatched he is, our boy falls to his knees, trembling at the thought that his story will end here, which makes the new guy confused after a bit of trash talk. The man decides to leave, realizing the little boy is not what the overseers advertised him to be. G, however, wouldn't take this disrespect so lightly, and after a hint on how to use his power, our boy uses his brain and his bloody hand to shoot a super-fast projectile at the mysterious man. The guy, in turn, tries to block it with his scythe, but it breaks from the power behind the shot, leaving him to tank with his well-developed chest muscles. If anything, the scene made me want to hit those push-ups. Jokes aside, taking that shot head-on was quite impressive, but not as impressive as G learning he was barking up the wrong tree. The man introduced himself as She or Crow. She explains that in G-Block, they use code names, and Ganta's code name from now on is Woodpecker. Furthermore, after making it clear that he is not his man, she explains that these blood powers aren't as special as the little rascal thinks, and that many others like him exist with the ability to control their blood. The abilities to control blood are called a branch of sin, and over at G-Block, blood users are named dead men. With the talking done, she tries to attack Gan again but finds himself weak against Shiro since the big bad boy is a gentleman, and what Shiro is wearing doesn't sit well with his morals. Sadly, this funny moment gets cut short when a special unit appears, tranquilizing Gant and She, as well as taking Shiro and Yo to an empty corridor. Now in a lab, Ganta wakes up tied to an examination table. Tamaki shows up with a devilish smile on his face. Meanwhile, she wakes up in a clinic bed with Ray, the beta doctor, attending to him. Again, she shows how modest he is by refusing to admire the BBA, yet this gentleman's act soon turns psychotic once Ray mentions that she will put notice to make him withdraw from the upcoming fight since his ribs were messed up earlier. To put it short, she loves to fight, and now that he met his new friend Ganta, who he was impressed by, she would like a second round with him, and nothing's stopping that. Back with the MC situation, the Snake Tamaki reveals that he has rigged Ganta's jury verdict to get him sent to Deadman Wonderland before revealing that Ganta will face off against She in a battle the next day, tempting him with the prospect of coming face to face with the wretched egg. He then leaves Ganta to be tortured with footage of what a carnival corpse entails. Elsewhere, Makina heads out to see the real person behind Deadman Wonderland, seeking answers to the recent events. Makina's attempt to confront the director over what G-Block contains is halted by Chan and En, bodyguards of the chief director, preventing her from entering his office. They even hold their swords to her neck, emphasizing just how impossible it is for her to enter the director's office anytime soon. Meanwhile, G's friends wonder how they will meet him again after the guards kick them out of the sector and fix the main entrance gate. Now, in the main event, G is thrust headfirst into his Carnival Corpse match with the powerful, experienced Vetshi. So needless to say, he is at a disadvantage, especially after she had seen the kid's trump card from their altercation earlier, since he was ready to slice those projectiles like bullets with his blood scythe. After several failed shots, Ganta started shaking. It was a combination of being scared and having lost lots of blood. As she explains, Ganta still had no control over his ability regarding the speed, power, and size of his projectile. He just kept on shooting one bullet after the other before it dawned upon him that he had used too much blood, causing him to develop anemia. With Ganta starting to pass out from losing too much blood, she starts to lose interest and destroys the tree the little woodpecker was taking advantage of to stay far from Crow. The camera then turns back to She, and we are treated to a scene showing just how powerful this beast is and how far his abilities can extend. Meanwhile, Tamaki is watching with joy as his toys battle it out. His screen time gets interrupted when Ray informs him that the reports about Ganta's test came back, confirming the red stone that got infused within him is the same as the center of the Mother Goose system. With the tree gone and pain from anemia, and having suffered a lot of damage by She, It's safe to say things weren't looking so good for our dear Ganta. Knocking on death's door, Ganta struggles to breathe on the ground, and his past flashes in front of his eyes. Much to his surprise, he has a memory of Shiro when they were kids. Although Shiro scolded Ganta for being a wimp in past times, in the present time, she is seen explaining to Yo how the most amazing thing about her boy was always his ability to rise back up even after a beating. And just like that, G stops his foe and manages to stand back up. Grabbing Sanji's coat, Gant vows that he will find a red man and that his story will not end like this, not without a fight at least. With G running on nothing but sheer willpower, he shoots a projectile that flies towards the arena ceiling, dropping the announcement box to the ground right on top of She. Of course, being a powerful dead man, she was able to tear the box into pieces before it caused him any significant damage. Too bad for him, it was just a distraction, a means to an end. With She occupied with the falling box, Gant was able to close the distance between them and shot a projectile point blank at Sanji's chest. The power of the impact sent the cool dude flying into the air before falling unconscious. The crow praised Gant for having a pair of balls. This turn of events marked Ganta's first victory in the Carnival Corps. As a prize, G received credits and a piece of candy, which he took back to his cell where he was recovering from his wounds. During his Bing chilling time, a show began starring Ray and She, the loser who was strapped up in the middle of a stage. Dr. Ray Tashima rolled a slot machine, and all 3 slots landed on the right eye. Yep, it is what you are thinking. The slot machine dictates which part of the human body the loser will say goodbye to. The whole process is sickening to watch, and a gentle soul like Gant couldn't withstand it. Elsewhere, after leaving the corridor, Yo and Shiro plan a method to escape back to the G block together. What Shiro didn't realize, though, was the fact that Yo sold her out completely, leaving her to die up there against the numerous guards that swarmed her, thanks to his snitching. Little did he know that Shiro was a literal beast, watching from afar. He witnessed some sort of tornado as body pieces started flying at him and blood splattering everywhere. Then we get this iconic Shiro rising from beneath the rubble with her trademark menacing laugh. That said, after using her branch of sin at such a devastating level, the power took a heavy toll on her. Therefore, Shiro fell unconscious and was picked up by the siblings Chan and En, while Yo continued his way to G block through the tunnels like the rat he is. And just like one, he is now lost in the tunnel maze. While on the other side, Ganta hears a commotion outside his room, so he goes to check it out. He finds a helpless girl being cornered by a big ugly bastard trying to eat her flowers. G offers him food, which the fatty devours along with the tray. Yet it wasn't enough for him. As the big fella wanted more with nothing else to give, the 2 rascals made their escape inside the girl's cell, where they learned more about each other. The mood got steamy little by little, and G was blushing like a madman. Tiptoeing around this awkward moment, he mentioned how the flowers smelled nice. The girl, however, was like, say less, and then proceeded to zip down her dress to show her scars. Turns out this sweet little flower is in this place due to being accused of killing her abusive father. One day, her dad hit the bottle heavy, and as a result, he hit her as if she were a heavyweight UFC champ, almost going unconscious from all that ground and pound. Mitsuki's powers manifested. One thing led to another, and thus here we are. Side note, we also learn that she has an older brother who was fighting for her as he didn't believe she would do such a thing, and that big brother is none other than Yo. Hearing her tragic story as well as getting flashed, Ganta's heart moves, and he offers to help Minetsuki escape. While on their way, the younglings manage to put on some decent performance knocking a guard, but sadly Minetsuki trips and metal beams fall on the 2. Gant being the selfless hero, he jumps into action and shoved her aside from danger, harming his leg in the process. The guards came after hearing the commotion only to find these 2 in the hallways. Those 2 are supposed to fight each other the next day in the Carnival Corps match, but don't feel bad for them, not yet at least. From what was hinted via the convo between Tamaki and the real director of Deadman Wonderland, the little girlie is a strong fighter, one that cannot be underestimated. Now the day of the match, both fighters enter the arena. Gant reassures Minetsuki that he won't fight her, and that together they may be able to find a way out of this predicament. G even is seen attempting to forfeit. Minazuki, however, had other plans. As soon as the real battle started, Minazuki removed her whip earrings as swift as light to cut through Gant's legs. Down on his knees, G saw the other side of this thorny flower, the JoJo's villain side. I mean, look at her face. Tell me she doesn't strike you as a stand user. She even acts like one, sprinkling salt on the wound by calling our dear boy, G, a virgin loser, before revealing that she had manipulated him into taking an injury before the match. Enraged and in disbelief, Gant fights back, firing projectiles at her which she blocks pretty easily. But I guess in Yo's eye it was a critical hit since he had to make a stand for her. Yo reveals that he was planning to gain enough cast points to buy her freedom. G is gripped by this sibling interaction, yet who can blame him, especially after seeing the faces Minutsuki is making. However, what was really funny was Yo trying to claim the moral high ground by showing disappointment that G raised his hand against the girl. Like, shut up son, you were double timing your boy and snitched on Shiro, which would have got her killed if she wasn't any other girl. Luckily G wasn't buying this nonsense, and he wanted to make things right with the power of his left. But Yo stood in front of him protecting his little sister. Seeing this, Minutsuki tried to manipulate Yo some more, but in a satisfying turn of events, Yo reveals that he knows the truth behind his father's death. His dad didn't drink himself into a blind fit of rage, and that she wasn't beaten to a pulp, but it was some sort of weird scenario that she made which resulted in her power to awaken. That said, Yo still for some reason was like, even though you're a psycho chick with superpowers, you're still my little sister, so I will protect you no matter what. Even Minutsuki was annoyed by this level of stupidity. She then captured Yo and used him as a human shield against Gant, revealing she has shown hatred ever since her mother left her for dead during the Red Hole incident and instead went for the flower pot. Not able to watch his brain-dead friend get whipped to death, Gant demands her to stop, to which she asks Gant if he has not noticed yet that Yo was using him all along as Minutsuki was going through her funny villain monologue. G managed to disable one of her whips and free Yo before knocking her out with a headbutt, winning the match. With the match over, G and Yo watch over a passed-out psycho killer in the frame of a little girl. Yo apologizes for his little sister's behavior and actions toward Gant, who likewise apologizes for roughing her up. During this bro moment, a strange quake occurs, destroying the room. Therefore, Yo rushes to keep Minutsuki from harm, which makes the crazy girl recall the time when Yo was the one to save her from the earthquake 10 years ago after her mother left her to die. Apparently, it was enough to do the trick and turn that cold-hearted kinky killer into a gentle, thoughtful little girl who cares enough to remove the glass shards out of her big brother's arm. She even didn't burst out laughing when he told her that he would protect her and that it wasn't her fault for their father's death, as she couldn't have known what the branch of Sin powers would do to her. Meanwhile, G was eavesdropping on them and started to have flashbacks of his own from 10 years before, during which he remembered things about Shiro, who was revealed to be the wretched egg during her fight with the director of Deadman Wonderland, Hirano. Also, as I assume you have figured out by now, Shiro is indeed the red man Gant is looking for, but we didn't have to tell you that because you are smart. Please like and subscribe. Later, almost everyone in Sector G was seen hanging in the corridor with the guards who were checking on them and the damages done to the infrastructure. She was also chilling in there. He met with his old rival Woodpecker and complimented him on his match. Furthermore, he gave our boy some tips and tricks, as he can't keep using his G-gun for every other fight, he needs to switch it a little. G-gun is the move our boy has used every time so far, with him extending his arm and firing a blood bullet. She tells him that the inmates came up with this cool nickname, yet G doesn't like it and decides to rebrand his move after a special move Eamon used to do. Eamon is a cartoon MC that Gant and Shiro used to watch when they were kids. The convo gets cut short by Yo's yelling. He's being chased out of his sister's room after he offers to bathe her to check for injuries. Poor Sanji caught a stray flower pot with his face, giving him a concussion. Consequently, this left Gant to hang with Yo back in the clinic. There, Gant asks Yo what Shiro was up to before they split. Intrigued, Yo asks about the nature of their relationship, to which Gant confirms that he and Shiro are friends and that he used to play with her when they were kids when his mother was still alive. During the flashback, we see Gant holding a doll of Eamon, and we can see how much it resembles the suit the Red Man wears, further proving that Shiro is him. After recalling some events, Gant is pleased that he now remembers his good old friend clearly and how she used to appear every time he was in trouble. He also wonders where she might be staying in this prison. Hearing all of this, Yo wonders if this mysterious girl is the same person Gant is seeking vengeance on, especially after what he saw the other day in the Watchtower. Sadly, the limp loser decides not to say a thing and just remains on the sideline. On the other side, Minana is still in the dark about what's happening in this esteemed establishment she's put in charge of. She suspects something major, something so outrageous is going through this place, and she plans to uncover it, as well as what Tamaki is planning. Speaking about the Devil Incarnate, it seems he is planning to mass-produce dead men, but he can't as he needs samples from the origin, the wretched egg, which no one knows who they are except for the OG director. Therefore, Tamaki is praying for his soon downfall, so he can take control of the whole park and learn the secrets of the egg. Back with the MC, Ganta walks in on Mina while she is getting dressed. Naturally, the girl is flustered and gets a bit aggressive. G then explains that he is here because it dawned on him that she will have to play the Wheel of Organs as a loss penalty. However, Mina is chill about it, as it's not her first rodeo. She's already gone through it before and lost half her stomach and a kidney. Yep, and she spat that info out there ever so casually. That said, her brother didn't take it as such. To save her from this hellish place, Big Brother Yo went to recover the cast points that were stolen from him. G decided to follow him, but he was stopped by a short-haired chick. Likewise, Yo was stopped by Tamaki, who blows his mind when he tells him that casts cannot be used to reduce the sentences of G-block inmates. Realizing all he did till now was for nothing, Yo gets blinded by rage and charges at Tamaki with killing intent, only to be attacked by Alma Jinkaku, part of an anti-AD force known as the Undertakers. As a result, Yo is left on the ground severely wounded. Meanwhile, G meets Nagi and Kariko after she took him out earlier with one clean punch. After waking up, he finds himself back in this little faction hideout. These two are members of a Deadman prison gang known as Scar Chain. The Scar Chain goal is to destroy Deadman Wonderland and its corrupt system from within. Seeing how promising and good-hearted the young blood is, Nagi and Kariko offer Gant to join their fight against the machine. Before Gant can give them his answer, the TV turns on broadcasting the penalty game of Minutsuki. Nagi arranges it so that she only loses her hair. Suddenly, Jinkaku appears from nowhere with a beaten-down Yo. Jin then attacks Gant and the others with his air gun. G is saved by the arrival of Shiro, who is back under the control of the lullaby. Seeing a new wacky contender enter the fight, Jinkaku decided to retreat, especially after Shiro had dropped right on his guitar, breaking his weapon. Afterward, G is introduced to the other members of Scar Chain who oppose the prison and are plotting to expose Deadman Wonderland's secrets on Inspection Week. The upcoming week seemed like a great opportunity to strike for Scar Chain since there would be no games in that week at all. Nagi urges his team members to avoid fighting the Undertakers at any cost, and if they do encounter any of them, then they have to run as fast as they can. While planning for the big move, the members of the Scar Chain made fun of Gant for claiming that Jinkaku dispelled his bullet when in reality, after pulling the footage, the intelligence guy showed that the monk just dodged the bullet. Also, to add insult to injury, Bundo, the intelligence guy, went on and started insulting Gant and his abilities to fight. This whole debacle caused Ganta to become distrustful of the Scar Chain. He dissed their organization, gave him a piece of his mind, and left along with Shiro. Gant later meets with his boy, Shi, to learn about the Undertakers and confirm if they can indeed nullify a branch of Synattac. What he didn't anticipate, though, is Shi getting pissed off hearing this. After their fight, Shi became a massive fan. He wants a front row seat to Ganta's every single showdown, especially if it was against an elite force like the Undertakers. When G explains he didn't do it on a whim but got dragged by the Scar Chain faction and their leader Nagi, she settled down. The crow now has the full picture. G then asks about Nagi, who he is, where he is from, and what drove him to this point. Gant wants to know whether this Nagi guy is trustworthy, as he represented himself, or if he is full of shit. She complies and starts spilling the tea. Turns out Nagi's first match was tougher than most. He was forced to fight his wife in the Carnival of Corpses. Since he wasn't planning on harming a single strand of hair on his dear wife's head, Nagi threw the match and had his vocal cords taken out. However, that wasn't enough for the Deadman Wonderland higher-ups, as they later accused Nagi's wife of rigging the game. Nagi tried to escape with her, but she got killed by none other than Jinkaku. Gant headed back to his room and found Nagi waiting for him with Shiro. Gant then apologized to Nagi for what he said earlier and agreed to join his cause. Nagi explained that it was alright. After all, he wasn't out for revenge. He only wishes to mourn his wife in the open air and return to his daughter, who is waiting for him on the outside. Later at night, Gant promises to take Shiro on a Ferris wheel when they escape someday. Elsewhere, we see the crazy monk practicing his air guitar. He wonders who the hell was that albino girl. One of his comrades, a little girl, tells him that it doesn't matter who she is as long as they kill her soon. After the guards come with a new guitar gun, and with it, along with the info Bundo has given, the Undertakers are good to go. Yep, you heard that right, Bundo the tech guy is a double agent. Good thing Jeet didn't join them. Editor, clip please. Oh, brother, this guy stinks. With the MC on board, the group is sure to succeed. Scar Chain begins its operation to leak information about the dead men to the outside world. As Nagi and Ruro go to the security room, G and the others are chased by an acid-spewing robot. Kariko threw the flash memory to our boy and opted to stay behind to save the others. G tried to go back and help her, but he got held by the members. After a short trip on memory lane, Kariko is empowered to fight off the acid-spewing robot and destroy it. Sadly, she fell with the robot while declaring her undying loyalty and love for Nagi. Meanwhile, Nagi is betrayed by Bundo and confronted by an undertaker named Hibanadida, who uses a special weapon to neutralize his branch of sin. At that moment, Nagi realizes that he had indeed messed up. Gant was telling the truth all along. Their blood powers can be dispelled. Meanwhile, the group is still waiting for their leader to open the door for the elevator. Little did they know their man was being cut piece by piece like a steak by the little psycho. While wailing on him, Hibana slips some info about how her mother used to punish her. Nagi puts 2 and 2 together and figures out that his foe is the kid who sliced her kindergarten mates into small pieces. He then notes what a monster she is and further provokes her by mentioning her abusive mother, who is seen hanging from a rope in a flashback. Losing all her wits, Girlie starts swinging that big-ass sword left and right, trying to strike Nagi as if he were a fly. After a couple of attempts, Hibana manages to strike his arm. However, it was all according to the madman's plan. He wanted his arm to get chopped off so he could create a huge blast using his blood powers and activate the elevator for Gant's group. Unfortunately, while they were laughing, enjoying the moment of immediate freedom, Genkaku appeared behind them along with his men and opened fire on everyone. Only Gant and a few others remained to carry the chip containing the information. Before Genkaku can finish off Gant, another Undertaker shows up and tells Genkaku that they have to leave this instant. Genkaku agrees and leaves, but not before promising Gant a private show soon. While bleeding to death, Nagi makes a call to the hideout explaining how they were betrayed and that the chip was a bomb. As soon as Shiro heard this, she rushed full speed ahead in hopes of catching up to G, and like an angel, or more like a demon, Shiro busted out from a vent tunnel, grabbed the chip, and threw it into a room on fire before it exploded behind her, causing her body to suffer burns. Shiro then looks at Gant, glad she made it in time to save him. However, that sentiment isn't shared, as the others along with Gant saw that chip as their final lifeline out of this hellhole. Shiro tried to explain herself, yet Gant, still oblivious to the fact that it was a bomb, angrily punched her in the face, telling her to leave at once. Disappointed by their failure, the remnants of Scar Chain return to their base to regroup and come up with a new plan. There they run into Karaku, who is severely injured after her battle with the acid-spewing robot. When she asks what she missed, G explains what Shiro did and how her actions made no sense whatsoever. Discussing their plans further, Bundo suddenly enters the room and everyone is excited to see him again. Naturally, they ask where Nagi is, but instead of answers, Bundo loses it and demands that they tell him just who exactly told them that the chip was a bomb. Only then do guards charge into the room along with Kazuchi, an Undertaker. Bundo explains how much he will enjoy killing everyone in that room and reveals that he was the person behind faking the video that showed G talking to Tamaki about the massacre. Suddenly, she shoots into the room, tearing the guard and the Undertaker into shreds. After asking who is the strongest enemy, a member of Scar Chain explains to him that he already took out the strongest. She then starts targeting the guards who neutralize his abilities on impact. Bundo laughs maniacally, explaining that his attacks are being neutralized at 20 megapascals per second. After listening to what Bundo had to say, she changed his stance and swung his blades faster than the speed of sound, killing the rest of the guards before they could even neutralize his skill, killing them all with a sonic boom. Witnessing this, G realizes how lame he is compared to good old Crow, who couldn't care less about this lot. He was just there to join his boy Woodpecker in on the fun. The group tries once again to convince him to join their cause. She, however, laughs, claiming that the outside world isn't any better than the inside, but on the contrary, here it's more straightforward. As further adds, you're just a pack looking for an alpha to lead them, and I'm just not interested. He then leaves, no question, like a true Chad. Meanwhile, Nagi is being held hostage by Genkaku, who want him to join them as an Undertaker. Genkaku then mentions to Nagi that he has been brainwashed into thinking that he has a daughter waiting for him on the outside. Nagi, of course, refuses to join the killer of his wife, so Genkaku starts torturing him slowly and injects drugs into Nagi, causing him to regain his real memories. While on the other end, Shiro laments her situation with Gant. During her pouting session, she meets Toto, the one who told her about the bomb, and he drops some hints here and there that make me suspect that he's more than a new character, but rather an old one. Detesting his weak self, G asks she to teach him how to use his branch of sin. She agrees and tells him that he needs to own up to his power after he learns the new tech, i.e., fire his projectiles at supersonic speeds. Meanwhile, Karak attempts to infiltrate the Undertakers by disguising herself as a guard. It's been over an hour and G is still unable to shoot a single supersonic speed blast. For a moment, she thinks about how he can trigger the urgency in Ganta to gain that skill. Therefore, she decides on a rather extreme but necessary course of action. He asks G if he has any candy on him. When G hands over all the candies, he crushes them all except for one, which he ties to a pole and tells G to try and shoot it free before his blade can strike it. If he manages to, G can have his last candy back, but before they can get balls deep into business, Toto enters the room, and for the first time, we see she taken aback by a thing besides boobs. Turns out these two birds have a history together. According to she, Toto here is the strongest dead man in Wonderland. We then get a little teaser of how good this trap is on his feet. He completely dodged she and came from behind to hug him, and then acted all Susie. She, of course, gets the creeps and questions what had happened to Toto, as this isn't his usual behavior, to which the latter ignores him. That said, let's continue past this point to Toto telling Ganta that Shiro wants to punch him back. Meanwhile, Karaku impersonates one of the guards and manages to infiltrate their ranks. What she didn't account for was a drunk off of liquor Shiro to appear out of a vent in front of her, trying to take her away. Jinkaku walks in on them and catches them both. Back to Gant, she lost hope of Ganta ever mastering that skill and told him to stop since he was about to pass out due to the heavy blood loss. As soon as he finishes his sentence, in a last-ditch effort, G manages to produce a blood bullet that can break the sound barrier. Suddenly, Jinkaku announces on the TV that he has captured both Shiro and Kako and taken them as hostages. Despite being low on blood, Ganta rushes to where Jinkaku is keeping them along with what remaining members of the Scar chain there are. On his way, Ganta is ambushed by guards but is suddenly saved by a supersonic whiplash of blood unleashed by none other than the reformed Minutsuki. Claiming that this makes them even, she leaves and he carries on his way to save Kariko and Shiro. As soon as he enters the room, Gant fires projectiles at the guards holding Shiro and Kariko, but soon later collapses on the ground from all the blood loss he suffered during his training. Soon after, a massive door opens and behind Jinkaku and the little girl who broke Shiro's legs, you can see Nagi sitting on a sofa. Nagi then starts crying, remembering that his child was killed along with his wife and his powers rampage out of control, attacking everyone and taking out all the guards. Please note that all this has happened while the rock monk was shredding his guitar. Nagi walked up to Shiro in an attempt to kill her, but Gant stood in front of him to protect his girl, taking all of his punches and trying to reason with him while the girls try to talk to both boys to stop. Then through the power of Talk no Jutsu, delivered by this show's MC, Nagi starts to come to his senses, combined with the help of a little bell worn by a baddie and a slap to the face. The leader of the resistance is back to his senses. Sadly, this is a dead man Wonderland. Happy endings are not a thing, as Kariko takes a stab right in the chest by Jinkaku. Enraged at what Jinkaku did, Ganta launches a powerful blood bullet at him that he barely manages to block. Jinkaku then tells Gant to calm down, that he didn't aim at any major arteries, and that she will live. He has done so to leave the honor of ending her to Nagi himself. However, the latter refuses now that he has regained his senses. Therefore, Jinkaku blows a hole in Nagi with his guitar, taking him out. Now it's Jinkaku's time to officially lose it and turn on his friends and foes. After a brief flashback of the monk's troubled upbringing and how he ended up here by killing his bullies, we see Gant's time has run out as the collar begins pumping poison into his body. Due to not having any candy in a while, on the other side, Habana tries to escape but is killed by Toto, who had managed to obtain Sanji's abilities after drinking his blood. From one psycho to another, Shiro enters the wretched egg mode thanks to the stone in Gant's chest when it started glowing. Shiro's legs were fixed up in an instant, and she was able to stand up. Half the body of both Gant and Shiro started to glow, and as a result, Gant fired at Jinkaku. The strongest and largest blast he ever conjured. Jinkaku attempted to get out of the blast way, but Nagi, with the last of his strength, held Jinkaku in place for the latter to meet his maker. After the dust has settled, we see Kako tending to mortally wounded Nagi. Before dying, Nagi gave Gant his last piece of candy and thanked his lady friend for enabling him to feel the raindrops one last time. Soon after, as Tamaki makes some calls, we see Kariko and others escape. Apparently, Lady G-Cup has recovered Gant and Yo back to her sector, and she is planning to question them about their whereabouts in the last 11 days they disappeared. Speaking about the main man, he decided to stay behind so he could protect his friends. Consequently, this turn of events makes Toto fascinated with Ganta's branch of sin, eager to know how it tastes. At the end of the episode, Shiro sings a lullaby to Ganta, who remarks that he last heard the lullaby just before his classroom was attacked by the Red Man, and asks her to stop as it reminds him of that day.